Referee Dave Hebner made his decision. He's standing by it, and we have a new World Wrestling Federation heavyweight champion.
What's going on in the ring? What is going on in the ring? Wait a minute. Is that Dave Hebner? Or is that Dave Hebner?
How could there be two Dave Hebners?
Look at these guys.
Wait a minute.
They look just alike. They look just alike.
The guy on the right's Hebner, isn't it?
The guy on the left is Hebner.
Wait, though. The guy on the right is.
Wait a minute. The Hulkster's coming over to figure out which the official referee assigned was a man by the name of Dave Hebner. I can't believe we're looking at two Dave Hebners. What's going on here?
Here's two Dave Hebners.
What's going on? The Hulkster's trying to find out who the real Dave Hebner is. Who's the real Dave Hebner? You tell me, Jesse Ventura, and what is going on here?
I think it's the one on the left. I think that Dave Hebner, I don't know who the imposter is. Look at these two.
Each one,
they look like identical twins.
They're shoving each other. Move on the right hand. No, I can't believe it.
Well, that shows you who the Dave Hebner is.
Yeah. The one in the ring took the money. It had to be. There has to be some chicanery going on around here. Has to be something with $1 Million Man. I wonder what they did with the real Dave Hebner to keep him out of the match.
I don't care what, though, but Hogan is not allowed to manhandle referees like this.
I don't believe that man's a legal official. Dave Hebner.
What are you talking about?
Official.
He just did the match. How could he not be an official?
Hulk Hogan. And I don't know what oh, wait a minute. Coming back. Oh, look at this. Whoever that man is, he's high above the air. The Hulkster knows. Look out. Oh.
You have an announcement for us, Jack.
Yeah, regarding referee Danny Davis. Hold it.
Hey, there he goes.
What is going on here? That's Jack Tunney. That's Danny Davis in front of him.
Ladies and gentlemen, the following contest is scheduled for one fall. In the ring to my right from Knoxville, Tennessee, weighing 200...
What's going on here? Danny Davis has no right to be in there. Ooh, did you see that? Davis just shoved the referee down.
Well, I'm a bit confused. Is Davis...
Santana. Davis is going to square off with Santana. I can't believe it. Davis is going to square off with Santana.
What has brought all this on?
What?
Referee Danny Davis is suspended for life.
Oh, my goodness. How about that? A standing ovation for that announcement. Danny Davis has been suspended for life. All right.
For life?
All right.
How can you suspend someone for life?
Wait a minute. Jimmy Hart, what is he doing in there?
Do I get this right? You're telling me Jack Tunney has suspended Danny Davis for life?
That's exactly right. And what is Jimmy Hart now doing with his arm around Davis? Let's go back to the ring.
Jack Tunney, you suspend this man? You barred this man from refereeing? Well, that's just great with us. You know why? Because now he's a professional wrestler. That's right. Danny Davis, the newest member of the Hart Foundation. And you see, we have open contracts. We have open contracts for Danny in single competition, one-on-one, baby. Hey, tag team. Hey, it's open. You see, the Hart Foundation, the world heavyweight champions. And last but not least, the six-man. That's right, six-man matches. Danny Davis, the Anvil, and the Hitman all together. Six-mans, or whether it may be, hey, tag team competition. Last but not least, single competition. Danny Davis, the newest member of the Hart Foundation. Thank you, Jack Tunney, who is the smartest man in professional wrestling, and why am I?
This is the Pro Wrestling Spotlight, presented by Hami Media and the Pro Wrestling Reflection, where we discuss the very best of the best in pro wrestling history.
And what's it gonna do when Hulkamania and the largest arms in the world run wild on you?
The two soundest wrestlers in the World Wrestling Federation, maybe in the history of the World Wrestling Federation, are right here, right now. Mr. Perfect and the excellence of execution, the Hitman.
WrestleMania weekend isn't complete without the Heartbreak Kid, and he is on his way.
He put hard times on Dusty Rhodes and his family.
They think they got the answers. I change the question.
You will rest in peace.
Get used to it in Ric Flair. Who you're looking at, the man.
This man! What the rock is
What is going on there, Reflection Nights? What is going on there to the Beetle Ice, the Hameen Ice, the solitary confinement PWC Ice, and to the magnificent 7, the Elite 8, the Naughty 9, the terrific 10, the Essential 11, you know who you are. This is Thanksgiving weekend when this episode drops. It will either be dropped maybe Thursday Thanksgiving, which I don't think it will because Ray will be like, you know, he'll be full with all the turkey and rice and stuff that he's eating. So probably this will be up on Friday or Saturday. So I'd rather say happy Thanksgiving weekend to all the Reflectionists, to all the Magnificent 7 members, and all that spiel right there. And, you know, side note, if you got some turkey that you just don't want to finish eating, you got some stuffing you just don't want to finish eating, you got some cornbread you don't want to finish eating, send it my way. Just DM me, and I'll give you my address, and you can mail the shit. I'll eat anything. I'll eat the Reflectionite food if you don't want it. You know? Say what?
Nothing. I was listening to you.
I did not eat ass. What the hell are you talking about?
You said you'll eat anything. I said, yep, ass.
Fuck you. I'm talking about the spirit of Thanksgiving right now. The spirit of the Pilgrims giving syphilis to the Native Americans. The spirit of the Pilgrims raping and pillaging all the Native Americans. But anyway, neither here nor there. The only thing that we got out of it was turkey, cranberry sauce. So it is what it is. I guess it's a trade-off. Syphilis, pillaging, rummaging, rape, and now turkey. Whatever the case may be. Again, happy Thanksgiving and welcome to the PWR podcast here at the Hameen Media Group at podbean.com. And welcome to a special Thanksgiving edition of the PWR Spotlight. And I am the man of the hour. Too sweet to be sour. Not about the ass, but anyway, I am the studious one. I am the effervescent one. I am the audacious one. But most importantly, I am the glorious one. The only objective man in this IWC, YWC, and solitary confinement PWC punditry. The only objective man in this political hemisphere. The only objective man with, you know, what's going on in social media, on the X, on the Blue Sky, on the MySpace, on the Rumble. I'm the most objective man. The only objective man. The Professor Chabelle Cruz. And I'm not here alone. No. I am here with my bird from another mother. He is a sleepy motherfucker because he just doesn't listen to his alarms. He is the conservative liberal, the liberal conservative, dum-dum doing idiot song, the iron stomach one, Dr. Frickenstein, and the undisputed, undeniable, universal Detroit Rock City heavyweight champion of the world. Woo! Tommy Wonder, how you doing, my friend? And you got the fire. Wait. Before you answer how you doing, you have started a trend, my friend.
I have.
You know the fireworks reflection nights, quiet as kept. I watch a lot of TV out there. You know, sometimes you get a little bit bored here and there. I saw somebody copy your style, TW. I was watching ESPN's first take or get up, whatever the case may be, and I saw Darren Orlovsky He's a quarterback. You know Dan Orlovsky.
He ran out of the end zone and got a safety on his own team.
And this motherfucker, Dan Orlovsky, stole TW's gimmick of the fireworks when he gives the thumbs up. I want to give credence to where it started. It started here. It started with TW. First it's the thumbs up. Then it's the... I didn't say do it, but again, if you trademark it and IP it, it is yours. So I just want to give credence that Dan Orlovsky, Detroit Lions' own Dan Orlovsky, stole your gimmick. What's up, man? Happy Thanksgiving weekend to you.
Happy Thanksgiving. And you went on your little... Good Lord, man. By the way, I did listen to my alarm. My alarm was set for 5:20 because we do this at 5:30. I didn't know that you were trying to do it earlier. I assumed you would.
I got the IM to prove that I asked for earlier. And you said this.
No, I don't remember that. But anyway, I thought about this a couple weeks ago. If you do not celebrate Christopher Columbus Day, shouldn't you also not celebrate Thanksgiving?
Are you asking me in general or just an opinion?
Yes. Like the idea that he was a bad guy and blah, 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 and murderous and all this. Thanksgiving is the celebration of all that came from that. So, but it was also a meal.
But like I said, wait a minute. The rape and pillaging, and then you got turkey and cranberries. It's the trade-off.
Right. I'm not asking you. I don't mean you.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying logistically, if you're not for Columbus, then you would not be for America or for Thanksgiving, because that's the end result of Columbus doing whatever he did. And I was listening to Joe Rogan of all stuff, and he's the only person I've ever heard say this, and he actually said it way more. Do you know who killed more Indians in the those days?
Well, I used to pass social studies a lot, so I haven't opened my textbooks in a long time. So please tell me.
Oh, they don't teach you in the textbook. A little bit. Other Indians, that's who did. There were actually tribes that did not have a home. They just roamed, and when they saw other tribes, they waited until the nighttime, and then they ran in there and raped and pillaged the village, killed everyone, not just the dudes, killed everyone, burned the teepees down, stole all their shit, and kept moving until they came across another tribe and did it again. So, and this is my favorite part, this is important. When I talk to people, look, don't get me wrong, if people have a problem with the stuff, God bless them, right? But I'm talking about the dum-dums who just say, yeah, and just agree to everything because it's the right thing to be, right? When you talk to these people, they would have you believe that they think from here to here, here to here, and everywhere in between is where all this stuff took place, not over here where it started and then the rest of it was just bare land that no one ever had yet and got discovered as it got discovered. Not discovered, but you know what I mean.
Well, the world is flat. So
no, I don't mean the world. Sense. I mean the United States of America wasn't here, and we just came and took it. Every piece of land everywhere has been fought for, and that's how the United States formed. Was Americans fighting Americans, Americans fighting Canadians, Americans fighting Mexicans, and of course Americans fighting Native Americans. But it's weird to me when you talk to people who are like, fuck Columbus, and then when you ask them why, they don't really have an answer. They just, because I thought that's what we're doing. That's why I say fuck Columbus. But the point is, we're doing this podcast because some of that shit happened. If it hadn't, I don't think we're going to be recording live from the TP. That's the point. So
TP has great Wi-Fi. TP has the best Wi-Fi. Just
TP Bungholio. It's terrible what's happened in every war. Every one of them, there's death and whatever. It's horrible. So no one's celebrating that part of it. They're just Thanksgiving is you're thankful that we wake up in the morning and the world is our oyster.
Tit for tat, rape and pillage for cranberries and turkey. It is what it is. That's the genesis of why we're here, and this is what it is. So with that being said, Reflectionites, we are doing a Thanksgiving edition of the PWR Spotlight. And you know what, TW? It was funny because in all our years of doing the PWR Spotlights, all our years of doing episodics, all our years of doing what ifs, all our years and all of what ifs and movies, we have not done an episode pertaining to something that I have an affinity for, pertaining to a subject that you even told me that I should even try to go into even more deeper. It is what it is. The 12 that rise strong always knows that the professor did not want to be a professional wrestler. He wanted to be a professional wrestling referee because I was enamored with that kind of job. I was enamored with what their responsibilities was, TW. And we'll name some names. But my dream was, let's just say, Charles Robinson lived my dream at a WrestleMania. The spot where Undertaker, Tombstone, Edge, and there was no referee, he covered him, and Charles Robinson ran his little ass down from the Tampa Bay Stadium or Orlando Stadium, wherever it was. It was one of the greatest moments in referee history, and we'll get into our greatest Mount Rushmores of referees. But I just want to say this: that was the dream. What Charles Robinson did at that WrestleMania, Undertaker versus Edge, was the professor's dream. That's Charles Robinson's moment in the sun. But that's what the professor wanted to do because he was enamored with that. And when I was little, in TW with the backyard wrestling, I was a little bit of I was smaller than, because most of my friends were a little bit older, like 5 or 6 years older. So they didn't want to beat up me. So, because I was small.
Oh, so it was like a Diddy party.
No, it wasn't a Diddy party, but it was, I had backup, if you will. But anyway, neither here nor there. But I was the little one. My brother was the heavyweight champion, and then I was the referee. So I wasn't biased. I called it right down the middle. Even my brother was like, "What the hell are you doing, man?" I'm like, "I'm counting the threes." But that was my job. I was the referee for my brother's backyard wrestling and with all his friends and all that stuff. And certain times I even wanted to. I talked to my brother. I said, "Can I take a bump spot where I get hit so this way I could do all that stuff?" That was my dream and all that stuff. I just wanted to say this, and it was apropos reflection. I said, it's Thanksgiving. I want to give thanks to one of the most underappreciated jobs in professional wrestling history, in professional wrestling lore, and that is the referee. So TW, you've lived that history, and you holding up Teddy Long. Is that Jordan Morello?
No.
Who's
John
that?
Something. I can't remember his name.
Oh, okay. I mean, I can tell that's Teddy Long. But anyway, TW has lived the lore of the professional wrestling dream. But TW, what was your relationship to the referees that you had to work with? Because Calavera Cortez and Los Rudos, you was the bad guys. So, the referees were on your ass and all that stuff. So what was your relationship like with the referees? How was it important to make a Los Rudos match great or greater with the referee?
I always did. Maybe not in the beginning when I first started because, I'm green as grass. I'm just trying to get in there and not fucking embarrass myself for the promotion and get booked again. But I always fucked with the referees when I wrestle. When they do the check you before the match and pat you down for foreign objects, I'd lift my leg, and when they go to grab it, I'd lift it, I'd drop it and lift the other leg, do like hokey pokey with them, and almost always the crowd popped when I did it. And I'm sure I stole that from someone. I wish I knew who I stole it from. Piper probably did it once. A lot of guys probably did it once or twice. I did it every single match. When I wrestled, and so referees were always part of mine. But I never, I didn't do the bully the referee. So then the referee, which is funny. I think it's a missed opportunity to do that, because where maybe someone like Austin Theory could threaten a referee and then get the fast count, and the referee be like, "I'm running this shit." You know what I mean? To flex his power. Because really, at the end of the day, the most powerful guy in the ring, in theory, is the referee. No pun intended when I said Austin Theory. But Austin Theory is the kind of gimmick that would work with, where him and Grayson Waller could be, you gotta count this 3 count and then count it fast for them and go, "Hey, I did what you said. I counted the 3 count," right? But these days, referees, I think, definitely in WWE, they get treated more like sports referees. They're not really part of it anymore. I don't know if that's because of UFC or whatever, but if we're going to talk about referees, best referee in the history of UFC, I got to get it in, is Herb Dean. I think that's his last name. No, Herb Dean might be what's Herb's last name?
No, you got it right. Herb Dean.
Is Herb Dean? Who's the politician? Dean. Harold Dean. There.
Oh, you mean the
Yeah, that nut job. I'm making sure I'm not talking about Herb Dean. The craziest thing I ever saw was when Mirko got knocked out by Gonzaga and his leg was stuck behind him, and Herb looked at it and went, "Oh," and kind of untucked his leg for him when the camera wasn't on him. But I loved Herb. And then the other guy, the big white guy, used to do UFC fights, and then he became a referee. Big John something.
I don't remember the UFC referees by name, but probably Big John was the nickname.
Yeah, Big John and Herb, those are the two main guys. But anyway, referees are important because if they're doing their job, they make the match better. If they're terrible, and trust me, I've seen my share of terrible referees, it can take away from a match.
Now, before Reflection Nights, we get into our GOATs or Mount Rushmores. I want to ask you, TW, a different question because of your experience, with what you had to do in working with the referees and, all that such. Now, there's a difference between the referees in AEW and WWE on national TV than there probably is with the mindset of a referee at an indie spot show, right? Because for the referees on WWE TV or AEW TV, they have to know the breaks, or they have to know, the minutes and all that stuff. If you're given 7 minutes, you probably have an earpiece, and the booker, the agent behind the curtain is saying, 30 seconds, we got to do something. And then the referee will relay that message to the two combatants in the ring and all that stuff. Thank you, TW, for the thumbs up.
It's not me, I'm telling you.
It is you. But anyway, neither here nor there. I told you, Dan Orlovsky stole your gimmick. But the indie referee spot shows, are they different, or they have the same kind of cadence? Are they told there's a 20-minute match, you got, do the countdowns and all that stuff?
The biggest indie show of them all has it for sure. That'd be AEW. But the shows I did, no. Like it's funny, as you were saying, I was thinking to myself, not one time did I ever wrestle and have someone say, "Hey man, take it home. Time." It's never happened. There might be referees that have told me, I didn't do a lot of TV stuff. I mean, I wrestled and they got recorded, but nothing where they're like, look at the camera, no direction. But the referee in the modern day, the WWE and of course AEW, they're the director, basically. They're getting the real directors in the back talking to them, and they're relaying whatever they're being told in the ring. Like, hey man, start working this angle, start working this turnbuckle. And what I mean by angles, I mean the infamous hard cam side on AEW, which, by the way, I seen a picture of Full Sail or Full Gear, whatever the fuck it's called, that it looked like they had actually people sitting in the hard cam section. So all you neckbeards can no longer say, oh, it's empty because of the hard cam. No, it's the last seats they sell, but if they can, they will.
Well, it's never about the pay-per-views. It's all about dynamites and collisions about the hard cam. But anyway, neither here nor there. So it is what it is. But with that being said, TW, let's name, I don't know, we're putting a list. I'm not saying this is number one or this is number two. I'm just going to name, because if you remember a referee Reflection Nights, that means they did their job. So I'm going to start first, and I already named the first referee because he lived my dream. And this motherfucker has been doing it since WCW, and has been doing it. And it's funny enough, and we're going to talk about number one on the list. He probably might be number one on a lot of people's list of greatest referees of all time, and that is Charles Robinson. From WCW days, we remember him from the Little Nate spots that he did with Ric Flair during his reign of terror as the WCW commissioner. And of course, like I said, to today, with the WrestleMania spot where he ran down that aisle at the Orlando Stadium with Undertaker and Edge. This man has been doing it for, if that's the 90s, he's been doing it for 30 years, give or take. 30 to 35 years going strong. And TW, he has more responsibility behind the scenes because he sets up the rings before the SmackDowns or before the Raws. So he's an important piece of the wrestling shows. He's an important piece of the wrestling tours. This man has done it all, and I guess he's doing what he loves. But TW, what say you about that? Is he one of the top 3 referees of all time on your Mount Rushmores, Charles Robinson?
He's if we're talking popularity, like meaning who knows him, who doesn't. If you don't know Charles Robinson, then you must have just started watching wrestling. So he's notoriety. That's the word I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. He's definitely that. What I like about him is he's like Rey Mysterio, right? Everything he did in WCW, did not exist when he got to WWE. He's more of a polished, black and white, down the middle referee for the last 20 years plus since he came to WWE after WCW went out of business, whereas he was a character in WCW. And like you said, Little Nate and whatever, that's what his fame comes from. But now, if you're talking who is one of the best to do it, it's him. He's good, and he comes off as a real referee that you would see in UFC or boxing or something like that. He's not, again, it's going to sound like I'm piling on, whatever her name is.
You're going to do it. You're going to do it. Go ahead.
Aubrey Edwards or whatever her name is. She went into business for herself, and good for her because it turned into something for her. But it wasn't sustainable because no one planned it, so no one had anything to do with it. So I don't even know, is she still a ref?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she must have toned it down because I don't hear much about her at all like I used to. Felt like every day they were talking about her. And at first it was positive, and then it turned into she just stealing the thunder from everybody else. Like, if she's in a match and she's the person you're talking about, then obviously we're not talking about Adam Page versus Adam Cole versus Adam Copeland versus any other guy named Adam in AEW because everybody has the same name there. But she's not famous for her refereeing. She's famous for her antics. Charles Robinson is heralded for his refereeing. It's top notch.
So, well, let's use Aubrey for today's purposes. TW, let's stay on that. I'm not putting her on the Mount Rushmore, but she is known in the lexicon of refereeing.
She's infamous.
She's very infamous. So one side, Charles Robinson Reflection Nights, is the epitome of professionalism, the epitome of big match feel. When you see Charles Robinson there, whether it's for the heavyweight title, the U.S. title, Intercontinental, whatever the case may be, if a title's on the line or a very important gimmick match is needed, Charles Robinson is one of the first people they will call to do that job. Aubrey, on the other hand, yes, I agree that she has, I don't want to say went into business for herself, but she wanted to make a name for herself, which I don't see a problem with, because again, number one, she's a female, so she's trying to stand out because again, she's trying to
She's standing out for that alone right there.
No. But again, within the, it's the good old boy network, TW. So you have to break that glass ceiling somehow, some way to be noticed and to get respect. So again, I don't know. Again, there's a difference between a male referee and a female referee. So we have to give, it is a good old boys network. There is a little bit of sexism. I'm not trying to defend Aubrey's antics, but I think she made that constant decision that I gotta, break away. I don't want to be a timid female, but I gotta be a take no prisoners kind of attitude. What say you about that? Again, Aubrey has got to break the glass ceiling, and she's influenced a lot of other females within the wrestling game who probably are going to the Monster Factory and all that stuff, right? If they can't make it as a professional wrestler, they can take bumps at least so they can become a female referee in AEW or WWE or, GCW, wherever the case may be. But there is hope for females in the wrestling business if they can't make it as a wrestler. What say you?
So it's funny because that's one of the things is a lot of referees were either wrestlers when they were younger and became referees when they got older. Like probably Bronco Lubitsch is probably somebody that wrestled before he became a referee. Drake Wirtz, is that how you say his last name? Who went back to being a wrestler after he got let go by NXT when he was a ref there.
Name other referees. I'm just trying to keep the subject going.
No. I'm saying, so I was going to ask you, you said she went to Larry Sharp's Monster Factory?
I don't know. She might have went to some wrestling.
Oh,
she
okay.
I think she went to the Performance Center in Orlando, and she was going to be a referee for NXT, but then I guess maybe the contract didn't go through. Maybe the money wasn't right, and that's why she left. But she was part of the NXT developmental system.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. So the ones who do what they do like that are probably people that wanted to be a wrestler / character, ended up being a referee. Because sometimes there's a saying in music, the best bass player is a failed guitar player, right? Even though bass is guitar, but there's electric, there's lead guitar, there's rhythm guitar, there's bass guitar.
Okay.
People who try so hard to be a guitar player. It's just not working. And then they try to play bass, and they're unnatural to it because it's easier in theory to play a 4-string than a 6-string, right? Or 5. Well, I think bass has 4. But so some of these referees, Danny Davis, his ceiling was because he was so small, right? So he became a referee, but he was Mr. X. And then he got to be Danny Davis, the referee character. I think Aubrey's shooting for that. She's trying to become, maybe she has a stable. And for a minute there, I think she did get some talking time and gimmick time on AEW. I just don't remember.
Her biggest claim to fame for talking time or maybe something physical was with Karen Jarrett.
Yes, that stuff. Yeah. So I get her motive. It's just if it's not set up, if we don't say, hey, all right, Professor, tonight's match is going to be you versus Billy Ray, but Tommy's the referee. The focus isn't going to be on you and Billy Ray. It's going to be on creating this new character out of the referee. And you're going to be fine with it because that's what the goal of the match was. But if we're going to have a match and it's going to be Billy Ray versus Professor for the Cruiserweight title, and we're going to steal the show, and then you go out there.
Wait. Why are you dissing me with Cruiserweight, man? We're heavyweight titles, at least.
Well, because this wasn't for AEW. This was for NXT. If it was AEW, it'd be super heavyweight. But listen.
Give us the North American title, goddammit. Jesus Christ, Cruiserweight.
Fine. It's the first thing. It's because you wanted to be a referee, and my point was referees are usually smaller, because I'm getting to that point in a second.
Go ahead.
But you guys, we've been building this match up. It's the fucking main event Wednesday night. You guys have been having words for the last 3 weeks, which obviously I can't be talking about AEW because they don't even set stuff up for 3 weeks. But anyways, you guys have your match, and you think you stole the show, and then the next thing you know, everyone on the internet's talking about me because of stuff I did while I was refereeing your match. Not caused a finish, not screwed one of you over. I just made faces and did fucking jumps and all this, and all everybody's talking about is me and not what you think is what's that word yours? Piece de la resistance. Your crowning moment has been taken away because of me. And she did it every single match she did it in. She took away from whoever was wrestling, and no one's talking about them. They're talking about her. That's the difference between planning it and doing it for yourself, going into business for yourself. But Vince had a rule. If you were bigger than the wrestlers, you were not going to be a referee. All these referees were the wrestlers who couldn't, who weren't larger than life and were smaller than the actual wrestlers in the ring. And that's how a lot of these guys became referees. And some of them took it and ran with it because they made a living doing it and got to live a pretty much anonymous life. Other than, I found this out when I started wrestling. When I found out the ring crew was the referees, I'm like, damn. They're the ones that work every match, and they got to stay later and take the ring apart and get there early at the next show and put it together. I thought that was unfair. I would have thought there would have been another ring crew. The exceptions were not Paul White, but Steve White? Not Steve White. Come on, Pavarotti looking dude. Tim White. Tim White was Austin's drinking buddy. I think Andre had a referee that was a drinking buddy. Hogan's buddy was
same guy, Tim White.
Oh, was Tim White? So those guys got to go party with the boys because that's my stupid mentality is I want to party with the boys and the girls because I said a couple weeks ago, there's way more women now in wrestling, and that's a good thing because it means women will watch it and it's easier to have fun with a wrestling party if your girlfriend also likes wrestling or whatever, but they do it. But yeah, so I don't fault Aubrey for what she did. But it would have never flown in WWE. She would have been fired.
I understand that. I'm just saying, but I guess the difference to me, again, she's trying to break that glass ceiling for the females to get in there. Because now you got her, you got Jessica Carr. There's a African American female on NXT or WWE. I forgot her name, but she's dating one of the wrestlers.
She's the one I thought was the other Funkadelic or whatever Naomi was called. I was asking.
No, that's not her. Yeah. That's not her. But
Smith. But
she's
that's
my
point. So here we go. Let's compare them, right? When you first said break the glass ceiling, I literally just shook my head and sighed like, what the fuck is the ceiling for a referee? But then it dawned on me, you know what? I know what you're saying. And you ended up saying it to where I understood what you're saying. The heralded guys, the Charles Robinsons, the Hebners, all that. They're all dudes, right? So she wants to be held to the same esteem or the regard as them. That's the glass ceiling. Do you know how you do that? You do that by being Jessica Carr or Asia Smith, and you just be the best damn referee there is in there. The one who just does their job and does it so smoothly that you don't even notice they're there. There's so many times when either one of them are refereeing, Jessica or Asia, both times I look twice and go, oh shit, it's a girl referee, because I didn't notice, because they're just there, they're out of the way. And that's what when I was Indies, you asked me gimmick wise, I would embarrass the referees, like fun embarrassed, not anger embarrassed. But
you was living your gimmick as the heel so you could fuck with the referees. Of course,
and most of the referees love me for it because it gave them a little shine because everyone's laughing and hamming it up with them. And I always look bad in the end. They got over on me in the end. But the mantra for the referees, all the promoters is like, stay out of the way. Ask them what the finish is going to be and just be there and make the finish. But there's another caveat that referees are told. This is a WWE rule, so I'm hopeful that it's an AEW rule because they copy everything else. If a referee is counting and the guy doesn't kick out, you count to 3, even if it's not the finish, because otherwise everything goes to shit if you don't count to 3. We've seen it lately. I think it was WWE where a girl got pinned and her shoulder wasn't down and the referee's staring right at it. You're not supposed to count that. That's the reverse of it. So if the finish is whatever and their shoulders aren't down, and I've seen referees where like, whoa, that looked like the finish. Why didn't he count it? Because it was so obvious the shoulder wasn't up that they then got up and did one more move and did the flat 3 count. But
yeah, it's the nature of the beast of the botches that happen. Some of the AEW referees have done it. We've seen some things this year with WWE referees had no choice. But it is what it is. Reflection Nights. Again, it's one of the most underappreciated jobs in professional wrestling. So that being said,
by fans, the boys and the girls appreciate referees.
Absolutely.
There are referees. I'm certain of it on WWE and AEW, but when we wrestled, I would ask for a certain, hey, can he ref my match? Because of camaraderie, right? Like if you're
camaraderie, I got you.
Right. If you're one of the crew, I want you in my match and then we do a ref bump. I want you to be the one to take the ref bump. Like I would pick, not always. I normally wouldn't give a shit who the referee was. But if I was doing something that involved a referee bump or something like that, then I would absolutely request one. Today I was playing WWE 2K4. Is that the most recent one or 3? I don't know what it is. And I made an Intercontinental tournament, and the referee was that Asia Smith, and I was Bret Hart, and I went to dive out of the ring on the Rick Rude, and instead of diving out of the ring and hitting Rick Rude, I fucking rushed and sickled her and just knocked her out, and she just lay there, and I just sit there and wait for Rick Rude to get back in the ring and her to wake up. That's something they need to put in the game, is when you go to pin somebody and the referee's down, another referee, Charles Robinson, runs out and makes the count.
They don't do that?
No, unless it's like reliving WrestleMania moments or whatever, and you got to reenact it. But just a regular match.
I haven't played the WWE games in years, so I haven't played the new one, so I don't know.
Dude, this new one is absolutely gold. So, and they're like $20 now, or $25. What system you got? Coleco?
Well, I got the emulator systems where you get the old school, you get all the combos.
So you don't even have a PlayStation 4 or 5?
Nope.
Yeah, they're expensive. I don't blame you, but I have a 5. I got it last year at Christmas time for myself, and I got it on sale Black Friday, I believe it was, and then I had Santa bucks, and I got $50 off of a controller. So I only paid $20 off of controllers. I only paid $50 instead of $70. But if you don't play it, it's not worth it. I remember one time I think I went from 3 to 4.
Reflection Nights. This man goes on trips. He goes to games. He gets PS5s. He's a drug dealer. That's what it is. He's a drug dealer.
My name is Tommy. My name is Tommy. So you might be onto something there, Mark.
I'm just saying. So with that being said, let's go back to the 80s. I want to go back to the National Wrestling Alliance because this individual right now,
the greatest referee of all time. I know who you're going to talk
about.
Well,
he is definitely the greatest NWA referee of all time. This man was synonymous with Ric Flair NWA Heavyweight Championship match. This man was synonymous with saying, like, if I didn't see it, I take full blame. He took accountability when he fucked up. And all the matches, and when you thought that Dusty Rhodes defeated Ric Flair for the title, but if Dusty Rhodes threw him over the top and and this individual was outside. He saw it. For some stranger, he could see it with the corner of his eyes. Certain shit happens. But you and I know, TW, that Tommy Young is one of the greatest National Wrestling Alliance referees of all time. And like I said, if it's a heavyweight title match, if it's a Ric Flair title match, or Four Horsemen, whatever the case may be, he refereed. He wasn't a curtain jerker referee. No. He was he was the head referee. At least the top 3 matches on the bill at the Omni, wherever the case may be, he was the referee. You entrusted him. When you saw him in the ring, that meant something right now. This man could take a bump. This man's cadence on the counts was so synonymous. Like you was invested because of a Tommy Young 2 count, and you was pissed off. He made you invested in a Ric Flair match because, like I said, if Dusty Rhodes inadvertently kind of like lifted Ric Flair over the top rope, and remember the top rope rules, Reflection Nights, was a disqualification, but Tommy Young was taken out by J.J. Dillon, were distracted. Somehow, some way, the corner of his eye, he could see that top rope shit. But Tommy Young is synonymous and one of the greatest NWA referees of all time, and sometimes, arguably, he's one of the top 5 greatest referees of all time, no matter what organization. So, TW, what say you about Tommy Young?
I'd go as far as to say if he's not number 1, he's top 3. But here's the funny thing, and it's almost going to sound unfair to Aubrey Edwards, right? Okay. But here's the difference. Mm-hmm. Tommy Young would do for the big finish, like the 3 count that popped the crowd, especially if the babyface went over. He would be out of position and he would jump over them and be hitting the 1 on the land and then hit 2 and 3. And then he'd point to the bell and the place would go bananas. But he did it only at the end. He did it at the right spot. And he did it like it was the right thing to do, as opposed to doing it all match long and saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. He knew when to do it. He knew what to do. And I don't think they booked it for him to be out of position. He just was. So he jumped over there. He was if he's nothing else, and Charles Robinson can be in this relationship or conversation too, if nothing else, he was the most athletic referee in the history of wrestling. He was all over the place and animated. He had faces he looked bummed out when it was only a 2. Like, hey, I'm sorry, it's a 2.
Remember one of those greatest spots in history between Tommy Young and Ric Flair, because Ric Flair tried to intimidate Tommy Young. He pushes him a little bit, but Tommy Young don't take that shit from nobody. He pushes Ric Flair back and then shows the stripes like, I will disqualify you. Right. Don't mess with me. Don't fuck with me. Let's get on with this match. And TW is funny. I don't want to go back into the man and woman thing, but you can't. I don't want to call it a double standard, but that is getting your own shit in to a degree. I'm not saying he's wrong for it. I'm just saying,
but I guarantee that was Ric Flair's idea.
No, I'm just saying, but that's part of it, and we accepted it with Tommy Young doing it. And again, Aubrey's trying to create her own legacy, her own
you know who identity. Gets their shit in and it makes sense? CM Punk being the referee for Seth versus Drew, or the other way around. Seth being when you're setting something else up. Nothing is going to come of the stuff with Aubrey. No one's going to wrestle her, unless it's a girl match, right?
No, I know. I'm just saying, but I don't. Again, I'm not trying to debate about this. I'm just saying that there is a little bit of a double standard to a degree. But Tommy Young, when he did it, nobody batted an eye. It was part of the match. It's what made the match good because he got a pop out of it.
It was he got a pop to humble the heel, but it had the other person in the scenario was the heel. Aubrey's just doing shit on her own. She's not including the heel or the face, right? But here's another referee spot, and this is the one I thought you were going to say he did, but I do remember him doing that all the time, like pointing at the stripe, like respect the stripe. And we did this in my matches all the time with the tag team stuff with the Canadian Imperial Alliance, where the referee gets pushed and he goes back, and then he pushes the bad guy, but the good guy comes up behind him. So when he pushes him, he falls over the good guy. Then the good guy hops for the pin, and then the referee goes to count it, and the bad guy kicks out, and everyone laughs their ass off because the heel just got basically tag teamed by the guy he's wrestling and the referee, but only because he put his hands on the ref first. So that's a good spot, and I'm certain Tommy Young probably did that spot at some point because I don't even know who we stole it from, but I'm sure if we did it, we saw it on TV somewhere first.
And to put a ball on this reflection ice, Tommy Young probably would have been refereeing at least until 2010 and retired, comfortably. But his career ended on a WCW Saturday night in 1989 by Wildfire Tommy Rich. Tommy Young was pissed about that. But anyway, neither here nor there. That's just logistics, TW. It was a bump that he wasn't expecting from Tommy Rich and fucked his collarbone, fucked his shoulder up. He just couldn't do the tours anymore. And then some other referee, we'll talk about him in a couple of minutes, TW, came up. He was actually being groomed to become the number one referee in the 90s. So it is what it is. But it was just kind of like dumb luck where that WCW Saturday night, it was around Christmas time too, that Tommy Rich match happened. And then that was it for Tommy Young because they kind of released him from his deal or whatever the case may be.
Oh,
so that was
they just shit on him too?
Yeah. This was the Jim Hurt era, man. After that injury, I don't know if they were paid. They might have paid him out. They might have severed him out. But again, it was never the same anymore.
And you know what?
What?
I just want to say this before we start talking about Tommy Young. The only thing that you could do to make the greatest match of all times even better is have Tommy Young be the referee for it. And that's Steamboat versus Flair, or Steamboat versus Savage. Because all those near falls and the 2 counts and the long 1 counts, if Tommy Young was the referee, they would have been even more dramatic.
Well, I don't want to hog this up, TW, so the floor is yours with whatever referee you can remember, and then we'll go on to it.
Danny Davis, man. To me, like he's the first guy that was just larger than life. Like he was a referee, and then I think I found out he was Mr. X. I think they said it. I think after he became a wrestler with the Hart Foundation, heel. I think they said he was. There was selective history in WWE. You even know that they don't try to talk about what he did before. No. I think they said it to give him credit for being a wrestler. Like you think he's just a referee, but this guy was Mr. X or whatever. Maybe that's fucking Mandela.
The selective history reflectionites and TW for this,
which is no more. That's gone now.
He technically, and I still say he didn't, but he was blamed for Tito Santana losing the Intercontinental Championship against the Macho Man Randy Savage at the Boston Garden. And he was notorious, which is actually true, tried and true reflectionites. He was the catalyst for the Hart Foundation defeating the British Bulldogs to attain the WWE Tag Team Championships. But then, say what?
That was the angle.
No, I'm just going. Can I say my spiel first? God damn it, TW. But anyway. That was the antithesis for the angle, the hot storyline of 1987. And then it parlayed because, again, the referee took over TV time. It was him, it was Jimmy Hart, and the greatest president ever in the history of America, President Jack Tunney, who suspended Danny Davis for life, but for life only lasted for about a year because we saw Danny Davis referee in 1989. But again, neither here nor there. That's just logistics. But TW, go ahead with Danny Davis, larger than life. One of the largest than life referees.
He was the first referee that became a character, and he wasn't just a referee because none of us.
Wait a minute. Is he top 3, top 5 all time of referees because of that reason?
No.
Oh, okay, just asking. Just asking.
Notoriety, yeah, but like I said, he was a wrestler who also refereed. I don't know what came first. I don't know why he was Mr. X and a referee. But back then, a lot of guys did double duty. Job guys would wrestle singles and they get smashed in a fucking tag match with somebody else in the same damn show. But he's the one that made me go, oh, referees are people too, because you just didn't really pay attention to them, right? And then obviously the Hebners, and Earl's the main one, right? And then Dave was the twin, or was it Dave and then Earl's the twin? Earl Hebner's the legend.
Why you keep combining other referees, man?
No, I already talked about Danny Davis. I want to talk about the Hebners because they're the ones that are like Earl was the shit.
If we're gonna be fair here, Dave Hebner was the top WWF referee.
Okay, then it's Dave.
Earl Hebner was the second behind Tommy Young as the NWA referee. Right. Then his contract ran out, and then Vince McMahon got a great idea for one of the biggest angles of 1988 purposes.
It's the biggest one ever with a ref. There's not a bigger angle than that. That's what I want to talk about. Is Dave Hebner was well respected and was highly acclaimed, and then was the epitome of selling out. And so Earl, that's what it is. Dave was that, but Earl was the one that screwed Bret, right?
That too. Mm-hmm.
It was Dave.
Well, Earl Hebner screwed Hulk Hogan, and Earl Hebner screwed Bret Hart. You want to be
right? But I'm saying Dave was the referee, and then they found out the switcheroo. But Dave was the one that whatever. So yeah. So Earl's the heel ref, Dave's the babyface ref. But that is the greatest angle of all time, and just another like a side little stroke of genius for Vince to use the same referee. Like he had his bases covered to make it look like a work, even though it was a shoot on Bret. No, it's just the evil referee again. But
the one thing about Earl Hebner, Reflection Nights, and TW can expound on this, is when an Earl Hebner match happened, you can succinctly know that the match is still going to continue by the way he counts. Because what he does funny, Reflection Nights, is when he gets to 2, when you know the match is continuing, he kicks his legs up. And then you know the match is still continuing. When the match is over, he kind of succinctly goes 1, 2, 3, no matter if it's fast or slow. But if the match continues, his legs kick up, and you already know, oh, fuck it. We know we got another 10 minutes to go. But I just wanted to say that, TW.
He's adding to the false finish by his body language.
Yes.
Did not know that. You just schooled me with that one, Professor.
Of course he did. Seeing that Earl Hebner match, over the years, you could see it with his legs kicking up and all that stuff. So TW, let's put a bow on Earl Hebner. Dave Hebner, because of what Earl Hebner did, because he became the number 1 referee for the WWE until he got fired and then went to TNA. But Dave Hebner went behind the scenes to become a road agent and then, one of Vince McMahon's baby oil buddies. Neither here nor there, but, it is what it is.
Was he?
I don't know. I'm just saying. Those 90s were very funny. Was very funky. But I'm just let's put a bow on.
But I would say when we talked about Dave Hebner belongs in the discussion for one of the best pre Hogan things, right? He was that guy. He was official. But I'm taking one more. I don't remember his first name. I just know. I think I know his. Yes, it is this. Okay, it's gonna sound like it's the Tommy Show, but the best referee in UWF was Tommy Gilbert, which was Eddie and Doug Gilbert's dad, who looked like a poor man's Bronco Lubitsch, by the way. But he was the guy in the UWF when I started watching it, and they would talk about how that it was his son, Eddie Gilbert, and maybe I'm just making my own memories up, but I remember he would scold Eddie for cheating, like, you don't do that, blah, blah, blah. And then I think years later, maybe in World Class or Global, maybe Tommy was a heel ref with Doug Gilbert, but that could be just me just going into business for myself. But do you remember Tommy Gilbert?
Yeah, USWA stuff like that with Tommy and the Gilbert family, and I remember all that stuff too. So with that being said, I love how you combine a lot of people all together for one thing. That's what makes TW so special. But anyway,
we're talking about referees.
I know, but you're combining everybody when I'm trying to keep one.
Were you going to talk about Tommy Gilbert?
No.
And you weren't going to talk about Dave and Earl separately?
Well, I actually was going to combine Dave and Earl, but anyway, we're done with that. But anyway, let's go on.
For you. I'm leaving arguably the saddest story, but the greatest one of all time to you. I'm leaving them for you because you probably think I was going to take them.
No. Again, this is not a patriarchy of the professor. This is a democracy of the PWR podcast. But anyway, let's go on to another infamous referee because he was very needed in the angles of the NWA. In the NWO. He was very needed in the angles of, how he could switch over from one side to the other side. Maybe the power of the briefcase, but it was money involved. And that was Nick Patrick, the man who actually took Tommy Young's slot as the number 1 referee in the 90s when it became WCW. But he was very instrumental in the NWO takeover of WCW in 1996. And he was in the infamous ski mask during WCW Saturday nights when it was no fans in the arena, and they were doing the NWO Saturday Night Angles and all that stuff. TW, I know you wasn't watching. I'm just giving you the hyperboles. He was refereeing all the matches.
I remember that.
And infamously, Reflection Nights, he was the only referee booked for the only NWO pay-per-view, and that was NWO sold out in 1997, where he refereed every goddamn match because no other WCW referee was going to do that. So TW, Nick Patrick was important, and then when the takeover of WWE from WCW happened, he kind of faded away because he only lasted maybe about a year or maybe 2 years tops, and then I guess he retired or comfortably, or maybe the contract expired, or whatever the case may be. Because again, Charles Robinson's still doing this to this day. I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Patrick, if he was given that opportunity, he would have probably been refereeing till at least the mid 2010s. That's just my humble opinion.
Yeah.
But Nick Patrick has a very astute history in the world of referees in professional wrestling. What say you about Nick Patrick?
He was a SmackDown ref, wasn't he?
After the invasion angle ended, yes.
Yeah, because I can picture him in that blue shirt with the little patch on it. Was he part of the NWO angle?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So when you said that, I thought you meant he just was like quietly refereeing, but that's when I wasn't really watching as much, is when they went out of business and all that. But he's a good referee, but he had that thing that Vince didn't like. He was bigger than a lot of guys in the ring, so Vince did not.
I think is what you said about Danny Davis. He was a wrestler first before he became a referee.
Yeah, I think at one point, I've seen matches. We might have done some shows where Nick Patrick was the job guy in some stuff like Mid-South or something. But I used to confuse him with the guy that was a jobber in most places, WCW, WWF, and then he was Gary Gary Young?
Who?
Gary Young? Gorgeous Gary Young.
What about him?
I used to think
like
Nick
him?
Patrick was him. I used to think when I first saw Nick Patrick, because they had that same half mullet and he was big guy.
The only connection Nick Patrick has to somebody in wrestling, I think he's related to one of the assassins.
Oh yeah,
Jody Hamilton.
Jody Hamilton. Jody Hamilton ran NWA, man. That's Scott D'Amore's guy. That's his mentor.
But Nick Patrick is related to Jody Hamilton in the family tree. That's why he's related to one of the assassins.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, gorgeous Gary Young and Nick Patrick had that same build, same hair. Just the beard was missing, and I'm almost certain the first time I saw Nick Patrick, I thought it was Gary Young. Like he became.
He had that look, but with Nick Patrick, TW. Again, just like Earl Hebner had a cadence, Nick Patrick had a funny cadence too, because this motherfucker, Nick Patrick, Reflection Nights, is the only motherfucker I ever saw refereeing where he kind of looked like he was falling asleep, and then he does his arms, woo, 1, 2, and then it's a funny way when you saw a Nick Patrick match, because he looked like he's going to take a nap, TW, just like you take a nap all the time. The way he just like tilts this way, it was very succinct. I'm not talking about athleticism or anything, but the way he did the 3 count was very succinct for all his careers. He looked like he was falling asleep. He looked like he was taking a nap, and his arms were wailing high. He never until the NWO shit where he did the fast counts and stuff like that. It never wavered. But after the NWO shit, and then he became like, no nonsense and all that stuff. He did the same thing with his arm angles. Do you remember that?
Yeah, as soon as you said it. But let me tell you the reasoning. The logic is that his eyes are even with the shoulders. That's what he's trying to portray there. Whereas if your head's up and you're looking down, then how do you know if the shoulders are touching the mat? You don't. That's funny, though. That was a good impersonation of him. You came across as a combination of him and Beetlejuice from Howard Stern. It was great.
It works both ways. But let's put a bow on this.
Professor.
Hell no. But anyway, see, there's no fireworks for that Reflection. But
Daddy.
There's one other history for Nick Patrick where it wasn't his fault. And that was the infamous Starrcade 97 moment between Hulk Hogan and Sting. Nick Patrick did what he was told to do. He did the count. But again, you hear from every which way, from Bischoff to Sting to Hogan, about this was one of the biggest botches in wrestling history. Well, the match was underwhelming, first of all. But again, that's not Nick Patrick's fault. But Nick Patrick, I guess, whatever the timing was, or maybe this was one of those botches that you're talking about with maybe Sting was supposed to kick out. Nick Patrick did his job. And then there was a pivot where Bret Hart had to say, we're not doing this. This is not the screw job of Montreal anymore. But if you looked at it again, Reflectionites, it was not Nick Patrick's fault. It was Sting's fault. He did not put his shoulders up. So Nick Patrick was doing what TW talked about 10 minutes earlier. You got to do your job, or you're going to make the match even look worse if you kind of like stumble or kind of like, delay your hand count and all that stuff. What say you, TW, about that infamous moment that kind of fucked up WCW's victory?
I literally just listened to a Bret Hart interview where he basically, for all his sour grapes with Goldberg, he has the same amount of sour grapes for ever just being a part of WCW. And he was like, I didn't want to leave. And when I got there, he goes, they had me do the same damn thing with the referee thing where it wasn't even really a screw job, but they had me go out there and say it was a screw job. So I've always been under the impression that was booked. But I wonder if they accidentally did it and they went, hey, we got Bret. Let's send Bret out there and cover for it, right? But I would be 100% of the belief that was booked because that was terrible. It was a dumb idea. It was basically taking WWE booking and taking it to WCW without having the benefit of having Vince, Shawn, or Hebner.
No, but again, if you hear certain people, if Nick Patrick was supposed to be the rogue referee, the NWO referee, which he wasn't, because again, storyline wise, it would have made sense if he was, bought and sold again or whatever or bribed again from them. But they didn't play that out
right
to make it make any sense. He did a regular Nick Patrick going to sleep count.
I wonder if it was an accident and they just sent Bret Hart out to cover it.
I'm just saying it is what it is. But Nick Patrick has some infamous moments in wrestling history. So with that being said, I want to go back a little bit to the 80s because again, from our days, TW, I'm not trying to there's a couple of people that I remember. And one of the infamous people from the 80s, from the WWF TV's time, I know TW watched this in Detroit and all that stuff, was the people that kind of refereed the Madison Square Garden shows, the Boston Garden shows. Dick Kroll, Jack Lutz. Jack Lutz is a funny one, Reflectionites. If you don't know him, Jack Lutz is infamous because he looked like he was 89 years old refereeing a match. He was the guy that started Hulkamania because he was the guy refereeing the match against him and the Iron Sheik TW, but he was slow as fuck. The man is and Hulk Hogan is holding on to Iron Sheik forever. It felt like the Hulk Hogan that he was holding on for like a 10 count because that's how slow Jack Lutz was.
Right. But
these guys were very needed for all the house shows. So I'm just giving you credence to those names like Jack Lutz, Dick Kroll, what else? There was Cronodal. I forgot another guy. Oh, and Joey Marella, Reflectionites. We cannot forget Joey Marella because
that's the one I left you was Joey Marella.
Oh, I thought you were going to leave me somebody else. But anyway, TW, let's lump a couple of referees together because these were infamous 80s WWF referees. 2 for house show purposes and 1 for, let's say, Saturday night's main event purposes, Hulk Hogan match purposes.
Yeah,
Joey Marella.
Hogan Andre.
That's true.
Joey Marella, which everyone knows, is Gorilla Monsoon's son. He was, the young referee around the time. His life was tragically cut short in a car accident. I believe he was with Adrian Adonis in that accident. If it wasn't him, it was another one around the similar time. But Joey Marella died in a car accident. And it's sad because I just was playing the wrestling game the other day, and I had to do the Andre Hogan match, and they bleep him out in the footage. They don't show his face. So I was wondering if that was another Martha Stewart situation where his family was like, fuck you, you're not using his face. But he died in a car accident, trying to make a town. But to me, and that's why I was leaving him for you, Joey Marella, to me, was the referee that I recognized before anybody else. You know what I mean? Before Danny Davis became a character, I would have known Joey Marella on the street. He just had a look to him that he almost looked like Gino Hernandez, but like a young school kid looking version of him. But But he was always in the main event matches, like you said, Saturday Night's main event, other than Dave Hebner. Dave Hebner would be the head guy, but Joey Morella felt like he was always the WCW or WWE Superstars or Wrestling Challenge. He was always on them. He was just consistent. And then to the point where when he died in that car accident, it was noticed because he was no longer there.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Morella was succinct for television purposes and all that stuff. And it's the same thing like you said earlier, because about, he didn't get his shit in. He was just very right there in the middle. He was calling it right down. He was very studious. He was right down the middle. And again, his best moment was WrestleMania 3, where he counted to 2 on Andre when people thought that Andre won the heavyweight title after, like, what was it, the first 30 seconds of the match. We thought it was all over. It was like, oh shit, it's over. Andre won. And it just, if we had instant replay, would have made it all much better.
That's a good what if, man. Could you imagine if that did happen? Like,
if he just counted to 3 regardless?
No. Like if Andre really won that quick with all that hype and all that build up and Hulkamania, and then Hogan lost that quickly, it would have set up a huge rematch.
Mm-hmm. Well, you might have set up
another. It would have hit the way Rock beating Cena hit the first time, when you're like, there's no way Cena's losing, and he did.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, we that might be a future what if reflection. I don't know just yet. We might have just did it. Well, you did. Your what if. I stretch what ifs to like 45 minutes to an hour.
Right.
TW does what ifs after like 45 seconds. But anyway,
yeah. But I got a question for you about those 2 referees you brought up for the house shows, right?
Jack Lutz and Dick Kroll?
Yeah. Didn't in the 80s, like Madison Square Garden have their own referees and ring announcers that were the same for boxing? Obviously, boxing referees would be different, but they were something.
They had to be approved by the state athletic commission. So that's why you got to see the
commentators, the ring announcer, the referees, the doctor in the back. Because when I first started, you had to get your blood pressure checked before you went onto the ring, and if you had high blood pressure, they didn't let you wrestle back then. And that was the Michigan State Athletic Commission.
That's why it was very expensive for some referees. They couldn't travel a lot because those athletic licenses, or whatever the case may be,
you had to have one in each state.
Yeah, so and of course, if you're traveling and making a hot dog and a handshake reflection nights, that shit is expensive. Plus gas and hotels.
I had one in Michigan and I had one in Ontario. Those are the only 2 I had to have. Ohio didn't have to have it, but New York had to have it. Chicago.
Mm-hmm. But the beauty of WWF back then, TW, was the tri-state. That's where Vince McMahon had that syndicate: Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York. So they could travel to a degree, or travel in packs. So they could take those licenses to the Meadowlands, to the Nassau Coliseum, to the Boston Garden, to the Washington, D.C. I forget the Maryland, Washington Center. I forget what it was called, but you know what I'm talking about.
Now you got Maryland, D.C., and Virginia have that scenario. If you're an Uber driver in those areas, you're an Uber driver in all of them. Like, you could literally go in one trip to 3 states. Well, D.C. is not a state, but whatever they call it.
Well, let's go on to another referee of infamy. I need a favor, TW. You was holding one of those referees. Please hold the one that everybody can recognize. Some people call him one of the greatest SmackDown commissioners of all time. Some people call him one of the greatest managers of all time, top 10 managers of all time. But we all know that he started as a rogue referee in 1989, but he was one of the top referees, and that is Theodore R. Long, TW. Again, from the NWA days, he got into not got into the business, but he got into another level with the managerial stuff after being the rogue referee and fucking over the Road Warriors, and then he became the manager of Doom, and of course he did all this stuff, after the fact. And again, like I said, we have the history of him being a WWE referee, and of course the SmackDown commission and all that stuff. But Teddy Long has had a long, fruitful career in wrestling, and he has held many hats. So what say you about Theodore R. Long? Because again, from the start of the NWA days, he was very let's say normal, if you will. He didn't get his own shit in and all that stuff. But until that angle that started, until that angle with the Road Warriors started, then people saw his talent come out. People saw that charisma come out and all that stuff. So that's where the player Theodore R. Long was born. What say you about him?
Teddy Long, of all the people we talked about becoming characters and making something bigger than, he is the one who did the most with the humble beginning of a referee and turn into, he's a star. He's an absolute star. He's infectious. People love him. People love to be around him. People pop for him every time he comes back. And, you know, there's guys that could come out.
He doesn't like Ole Anderson. He says fuck Ole Anderson all the time. But anyway,
nobody likes Ole's, including me. So what are you going to do? God rest his soul. But, no, seriously, like, I couldn't even imagine being a black dude in that environment, because just being a young dude in the mid 90s, all those old timers were shitty to people, right? They're protecting the business. That was their guise of what they did. So I can imagine being racist on top of it would be even worse, to be black and in the business and not be one of the boys. But just, you know, Triple H made the news recently for talking about how wrestling's just like music. You know, in the 80s, you were bitching about the 60s music. Now in the 2000s, you're wishing music was like the 80s again. It's natural progression. And the stuff that we grew up watching isn't what we're watching on TV right now. We talk about, that's why we're doing this show, Professor, because we enjoyed the wrestling of our fandom when we were kids more than we enjoy this stuff today, even though we do enjoy today's stuff. And for me, NXT Black and Gold,
this is our therapy, Reflection Ice, because you know, with TW hating AEW like he does, he has this therapy of the PWR. Yes, he does. But anyway, that's a thumbs up, and that's the fireworks. But anyway, this is the therapy for TW. Go ahead, TW.
But he mentioned basically what I've said all along. You know, I've said this to all the WWE haters who are like, it's a PG product. They're not booking for us. They're booking for them little kids whose dads are going to buy them a foam finger, a poster, and a headband and a T-shirt, right? That's what people don't understand. So now it's looking like it's headed back towards that attitude era, because those young kids that got the foam fingers are now going themselves, and eventually they'll be the dads bringing their kids again, and it'll come around full circle. So wrestling's always going to change, but when you book for one specific group of people, you're not going to pop 1 million. You're going to get 500,000-600,000 people watching it, because, you know, there's only so many neckbeards in the world. So you got to branch out. You got to book a little bit for everybody, not just one little sect. But Teddy Long to come out in 2024, because I think he came out early in the year, or at least last year when the Raw anniversary, when that dude comes out unannounced, he gets a pop every time. And for someone who was big in the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, that's pretty awesome when you're a freaking referee to start. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and then you parlay. That's one of your favorite words.
But most people know him for the SmackDown stuff,
right?
The commissioner stuff, and
but saying the Undertaker. Most guys that started out as a referee and became something else either ended up a referee again or out of the business. Teddy Long started off as a referee and became a managing, also general manager, Hall of Famer. He's a freaking Hall of Famer for that, not even for being a ref. And he was a good ref when he was a ref. So he's in the conversation. He absolutely did the most with the opportunity that he got. And by the way, this other guy is John Cone, and he was the head referee for quite a while. Also SmackDown. They're actually, this was a Build-A-Figure that came, all the pieces came with Lex Luger, Undertaker, X-Pac, and Kane, but they're actually releasing a basic figure of him soon with a chase version with the SmackDown blue shirt with the thing, but otherwise the button-up referee shirt, not the stripes. Well, I guess that's polo. But yeah, he's a pretty big guy. I want to get it. We don't have to talk about him, but he was kind of a big deal, but more recently than.
Well, we talked about Aubrey. We could talk about John. What again? John Fenn. John Cone. Well, I don't know. Again,
John Fenn, it's funny. The damn guy that had a stroke in Congress.
I know. That's Fetterman.
Yeah, that guy. All right.
Not the same. I don't know his cadence. I don't know his cadence of 3 counts, but I'm the professor. I got to know a lot of things. I got to know social science too. But
like that. That's just fucking. That was terrible.
The views and opinions of TW do not reflect of the PWR podcast. But anyway, neither here nor there. But it's funny you say John Cone and all that stuff, because today's referees, again, besides Aubrey Edwards getting her shit in, again, she's more noticeable. But today's referees, just like a car, John Cone, I even go Bryce Rensburg of AEW and all that stuff, and the Young Bucks referee from the Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, who's one of the dumbest referees out there, whose psychology really sucks. But
the Young Bucks.
I forget his name, but neither here nor there. Reflection. Excuse me, but you know who I'm talking about. But he is the PWG Young Bucks referee who has terrible psychology. But these referees, TW, in comparison to the Teddy Longs, the Hebners, the Danny Davises, they don't stand out to a degree. They don't even stand out to the point where I even know their names.
Yeah, who's a little looks like a young Teddy Long, the black dude in NXT. Looks like a shrunk down Apollo Creed. Or not Apollo Creed. What's Apollo's last name?
Cruz.
Apollo Cruz. There's a referee. He's fucking jacked, but he's little, bald guy.
I don't know his name. That just stands.
You only see him when they're pointing at the winner, but you don't notice him during the match.
But that's the problem, and I have to blame Vince McMahon for this, TW, because again, in the '80s, he made it known, like you said, treat it like a sport, because the referee was very important. Because like in boxing, you knew Mills Lane, you knew Richard Steele and stuff like that. You even talked about the UFC referees, Herb Dean and Big John, respectively. They are big money match referees and all that stuff. But Vince McMahon, he started this. He kind of said, I don't want to name them. I don't want you to name these referees. I don't care about these referees and all that stuff. So then in my mind, they're not important anymore. So I actually, because like I said, for me, Reflection, I still wanted to be a referee to this day, no matter what. So I kind of like a little biased, TW, and even TW knows this. That's why I applaud Aubrey Edwards for what she's doing to a degree. Not like getting her shit in or trying to get over on the boys, but again, she's just trying to get the referees some respect in the business. That's just the way I'm looking at it as a fandom. But TW, it goes without saying that the referees in the last 10 years, we don't know their names. And that's a bad thing. So what say you, TW, about that? Do you agree with that sentiment, or you have a different take on that?
I do. And the only reason I know John Cone's name, it was familiar when I read it, is because they did the Build-A-Figure wrestler for him. Otherwise, I wouldn't have. But once I saw him, I was like, oh, by the way, I was about to say he looked like him. Rest in peace to one Chuck Woolery, who was a huge part of my childhood. And he was pretty infamous in the recent years because he was one of the few Hollywood people that didn't shill for the other side. But that being said, John Cone, to have a figure made of him was kind of like, whoa. And then I was like, yeah, I kind of know the name. And then when I see him, he might be early 2000s, 2010s. He's not that far back. But yeah, there's no other referee. I had to look up those two girls' names. I mean, I know who they are when I see them, but I don't know their name. You're right. And what Vince wanted was he wanted his referees to be anonymous. He didn't want them to take away from. And then also, if the referees, this is my own saying this, if the referees are famous enough, then you almost have to have a referee be the ref. Like you just said, Mills Lane is Mike Tyson's fights all had Mills Lane. I think it was Tyson. He was so. Then you're going to run into having to have contract negotiations with the referee, because if they become bigger than the job, now you got to pay them, and then it also. Why even I don't know if it's big. I don't know if it's bigger than the job, but at least you know that if it's going to be a Mike Tyson match, or if you know it's going to be a Ric Flair match, or you know it's going to be a John Cena Rock match, you want your best referee with the reputation for all that is going to be called down the middle. But you want to know the name of the referee too. It's part of the histrionics. If that referee becomes synonymous with big fight, then that referee can then say, "Hey, I'm a part of this big fight field. I need to get paid like it." So the business end, I can see where he doesn't want to create a fucking ego where he doesn't need one. But also, if you have that prominent of a referee, like a Mills Lane or like Earl Hebner or Dave Hebner, whoever you want to say, then what's the fucking point of even having a special guest referee? Like, the whole idea is that they're better because they can take more and they're not going to get scared of you and back down. So Seth Rollins is our rep or CM Punk is our rep. There's no need for that if you have this larger-than-life head referee who is the guy who's the be-all, end-all for the matches. What is a terrible thing in wrestling throughout history, no matter what promotion, is how you get these fucking – the referees – results stand. You're like, the referee's decision stands. And then you have all these reverse decisions where the referee's like, yeah, I fucked up. I'm going to change that decision, right?
Well,
Whereas Tommy Young would be like, I fucked up, but that's the decision.
But that's part of the dusty finish. Right. You had to implement the referee fucking up, and that's what made it so good. But again, that's what I was saying.
But
like
the decision was never reversed, is what I'm saying. But then you have
it
was reversed.
That's flight shit to me right now. I'm just saying, but again, the last 10 years, you don't really know the referees' names, and that's the problem to me. I just think, I want to get back to that.
An idea.
What's that?
You get yourself a big white piece of cardboard and a black Sharpie. And start writing fucking signs for them referees. Like, let's go Asia, let's go Jessica, let's go.
You go to more shows right now, than me.
I might go to the Monday Night Raw. That's not a Monday Night Raw in Detroit in December on the 30th, I believe.
Okay. Oh, like the tape delay Raw?
No, the holiday tour, which I told my buddy because he always asked me about him to take his son, and I'm like, dude, Raw's fun, SmackDown's fun. But the commercial timeouts are fucking weird. And if I was a kid, I would be bored out of my mind during those commercial timeouts where the ring goes dark. Not when the match is in progress. Coming to the ring and they go to a commercial. It's just 2 minutes of just dark ring. It's dumb. You've probably seen it. Whereas I tell them, take them to
the holiday tour shows are a little bit more fun because it just
any house show, because they don't have you got 10 minutes solid, you can't go over. They can go over on house shows. The wrestlers themselves will tell you they have more fun in the matches there.
It's a great rhythm. It's a great rhythm reflection.
Yeah, and it's like the old 80s where when this guy's leaving, the next guy's coming to the ring to start the next match. There's no frills. It's just boom, 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 boom matches.
Cool. All right, let's go back to the 90s because I didn't want to forget this man who has been long past, God rest his soul, but he had one of the coolest names for a referee, and he was representing WCW. His name was Randy Pee Wee Anderson. You can't forget a name like that for Randy Pee Wee Anderson. But he was infamous, TW, because he had like wars with Nick Patrick, because in Nitro lore, he defeated Nick Patrick with brass knuckles and all that stuff. But I don't know. Again, he agreed to do this, but it was so fucked up. But the younger professor laughed because it was funny. But when he had his family out talking about I was just getting over cancer, I had given it over chemotherapy, and you had Eric Bischoff, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash laughing at that, saying you're still fired and all that stuff. Yes, when I'm young and dumb, reflection, I laughed at that. But Randy Anderson's face was pure gold, TW. That was Oscar performance worthy. He looked disheveled. He looked sad. And his son even played it very well. So what say you about one of the sweetest names out there, Randy Pee Wee Anderson?
He was awesome, and he was unassuming, and he wasn't a character. He was the opposite, like withheld. And so when he did do stuff like a brass knuckles, it was big. It was like getting that nerd to break out of his shell, and like Lucas kicking the football or getting killed on a football field, whatever. It was awesome, and Tim White passed away too, right?
Yes, he passed away in the 2000s
of cancer as well.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always get those two confused because I thought
Tim White was fat. He was fat.
No, not that. I knew who they were looking at them.
Oh, okay.
One of them I thought was, I think now that you just said it, I thought the Pee Wee one was a storyline and that Tim White really died of cancer, but Pee Wee didn't. But they both did. They just incorporated Pee Wee's illness into the storyline. But one more guy, real quick, and Pee Wee was awesome, but another referee, he wrestled as, I want to say he was the Godzilla Kid. They used to have a memorial show for him every year. Brian Hildebrand was another referee, little tiny guy who I want to say he did
USWA and WCW referee.
Yeah, and then he got sick and died, but he also wrestled. He was smaller than Rey Mysterio, but he did all the acrobatic stuff. He wrestled on the indies with Travis and I, and then he refereed for WCW doing that. But he was another kind soul that everybody loved, like Pee Wee. Like when you brought up Pee Wee, I was like, oh man, how did I forget Brian Hildebrand? But those two guys are synonymous with each other as far as everyone loved them. Sad that they got sick and died way too young. I think Pee Wee got a little bit longer of a life than Brian did. He was younger, but they both had families and shit. I remember the Pee Wee angle where he was just fired. I think he had his wife and kid out there with him, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, that's why I laughed. But when you're younger,
that's why I thought it was an angle and not real. That's why, and then you find out that he really did have it and passed away from it. But they're just and they're like, I don't want to say guilty pleasures because they weren't embarrassing to be a fan of, but like touching. Like that's why guilty pleasure is not the word. It was they were touching. They touched people's lives, not like your guys in your DM, but they and then it just the endings were tragic and maybe they add to the folklore of their popularity, but they were well liked before they were sick, and then when they got sick, you got to see how much they really were loved. That makes sense,
right? But like I said, at least he had his moment in the sun on Nitro where he knocked Nick Patrick in the face and won his match on Monday Nitro. So TW, before we close, because again, we can name a lot of past referees that we love to watch and all that stuff. So I'll leave it to you. Close it out. Give me some referees that you love watching, UWF days, NWA days, WWF days that we might have forgotten.
I think we got. I mean, Bronco Lubitsch is the only other one. He was just slow as fuck and just.
He was slower than Jack Lutz. I'll give you that.
I don't even remember Jack Lutz, but yeah, they just I'm not a real big fan of the guest referee or the enforcer referee. Like we didn't talk about. Wasn't Mr. T a referee? Isn't that how he started before he got involved in the match?
No, he started. Yeah, he was in the match.
But he was a referee too, or maybe that was afterwards. He was a referee.
That was years later. Like,
I just don't like the enforcer referee because it's basically telegraphing that they're going to get involved in it. Just once I want to see a special guest referee.
The first high-profile enforcer referee for television purposes, Reflection Nights, if we want to be real, TW, was Muhammad Ali, WrestleMania 1. That was where
there you go. Maybe that's what I'm confusing is Ali's the ref and T's the ref. But I just want to see.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. No. I actually bumped that. There was a year before that. It was actually Joe Frazier, Starcade 84.
I'm going to say, yeah. And I think a couple football players did it too. Like, not as high profile as the Muhammad Ali match. But that's the thing. Like, I like SummerSlam, Seth Rollins, I think at the end called it down the middle, but it was distracting to Punk, and that's why he lost or whatever. But I just want to see a special guest referee, enforcer referee, just be a referee. And yeah, he can say, no, you're not using the chair, or no, you're not using the foreign object. That's fine. But he doesn't have to touch the other guy. He doesn't have to factor into the outcome. So I'm not a big fan of that. So like you said, I think the boys, I think the brass, and I think the girls that wrestle, I think referees are very appreciated in the locker room. I don't think they're appreciated by the fans. And so I'm glad that we did this because otherwise, whoever is going to talk about Joey Morella or Pee Wee Anderson or Brian Hildebrand, who are gone, they're just gone. They're not talking about them on wrestling at an anniversary of their death or anything like that. I don't know if any of those three even got put into the Hall of Fame.
And there's plenty more that we haven't even said.
Right.
And a couple of months ago, you went to a Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling show. Do we know any of those have we seen those referees on TV, or they are just local to Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling?
I wish I knew his damn name. I think he does do Impact. There's a referee there. He was born without a lower body, and he's just such an awesome dude, man.
He referees without a lower body?
So I met him. Funny. This is funny. I met him at the Can-Am school. I went to see Scott and Jeff for something. I think me and Jeff stopped there to pick up tickets for a BCW show when I was over hanging out with Jeff. And I got in the ring. It was when Moose was training to become a wrestler. No, that I'm mixing two stories. Moose has been around longer than this referee, but the referee was there. And I looked in the ring, and it's literally just he's got an upper body and like partial legs, and he walks with his hands and his body almost. This is gonna sound like I'm being funny, but I'm not. Almost like R2, how he's got those two arms that move, but his body goes ahead of him, whatever. But he climbs in the ring, and I find out he does a fucking spot like a Frankensteiner. He didn't do it for the Maple Leaf Pro, but If he must not have been on Impact if you don't know who I'm talking about, but I think he could do it on the big scale, and I wish I knew his name, man. He was such a nice guy.
Is he black, white, what?
White guy, little white guy.
Oh.
And just
I remember there was a white guy in AEW like the first couple of shows who wrestled. He had no legs. He was in this battle royal. I forgot his name, but there was a white guy. Maybe that's the same guy that we're talking about.
It might be him because D'Amore trained him. It was when who's the football player that wrestled for a couple with running back? D'Angelo Williams.
Yeah, what about him?
He was there. It was D'Angelo Williams there because he was still playing in the NFL, but was trying to become a wrestler, and now he's not a football player anymore. But he was at the school when I was there, and real nice guy, humble guy, like really wanted to learn how to wrestle. Like he didn't go to that, and that's something I think Scott said that either to me or Jeff said to me that Scott said it. You knew he took it serious when he went to a wrestling school in Canada, not to the WWE and go, hey, man, I want to get booked on one of your shows. Because it would have been a sideshow thing, not him really. And I think D'Angelo Williams ended up in Impact, didn't he?
Yeah, he did a match or two.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, a lot of football players try wrestling and then go, yeah, that's not for me because it's harder than it looks, man. I'm not saying football's easier, but to a football player, football's easier than wrestling, and to a wrestler, football's harder than wrestling. So it's a nod to the business that so many athletes in other sports want to give it a go and then don't stick with it because Lawrence Taylor, I say it all the time, he said it's the hardest thing he's ever done in his life, and I think he did an awesome showing for himself against this man right here.
All I'm saying is there's a referee with no legs. I would remember his name.
I wish I knew his name, man, if I could. So next week I'm going
to. That just shows you what my point is. No, he's an awesome guy. I'm just saying, but it shows you my point. No legs. You should know his name by heart. It should be a Tommy Young. It should be a Earl Hebner. Right. But you don't know his name. That's the thing. We got to get back, Reflectionites, to knowing the referees' names. If all you know is Aubrey Edwards, then there's something wrong with professional wrestling today. And with that being said, we
Charles Ross know him too, though.
Well, we know again. He's
still going.
Again, he's still going, but he's living my dream because he did the spot where it's so infamous and so great.
You hear that, Charles? Slide into his DMs. You're his dream.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
He's got some of that leftover Diddy baby oil.
Johnson & Johnson. They need something. I'm just saying. But anyway, with that being said, we close on this PWR spotlight celebrating. Again, the most underappreciated job in professional wrestling by the fans, not by the boys, not by the girls, and not by the promoters. And that is the professional wrestling referee. So, again, what we're going to do next week, TW, I think we're going to do a what if. Because actually you inspired me because of not the one you're talking about, which will last for 45 seconds. We already did that one. We're going to do a new one because it kind of like dawned on the professor. In 1986, Reflectionites, there was a feud that never panned out on TV, but they did it on the house shows. So we're going to try to get that onto Saturday Night's Main Event. We're going to try to get that onto WrestleMania. Maybe they would have created another pay-per-view. TW 1986, the feud that never happened on TV was Jake the Snake Roberts and Hulk Hogan, the infamous Snake Pit. Oh, you don't remember that one, right? It's so bad that even TW doesn't remember it, but the professor remembers it. Where the fans were split, TW, 50-50 between Jake the Snake Roberts and Hulk Hogan. Who were you going to cheer? Who are you going to root for to win that match?
That was 86.
That was 86, the winter of 86 to a degree.
I didn't even know Jake was there in 86.
He was, yeah.
I feel like Jake's an 87, 88, 89 guy.
No, he was there in 86, man. Remember he put the snake on George Wells at WrestleMania 2?
Yeah, that's 86. Yeah, and he was wrestling like fucking canvas potato sack pants. He didn't even have the gear yet.
But there was an infamous snake pit that happened where Vince McMahon was testing the waters to see if you could make money between Hulk Hogan and Jake the Snake Roberts. We are going to attempt to try to book that match. And we're going to try to give it some story. We're going to try to, let's see if we can stretch it out to maybe 1988 with TW's expert analysis, expert booking.
I got a question for you.
What's that?
Almost forgot. Is the British Bulldog considered a Triple Crown champion?
In what, WWE?
WWE.
European, Intercontinental, and
Tag.
Yeah, he is a triple.
Probably had the hardcore title too.
No.
Because I had him wrestling Razor, and I thought he has more accolades than Razor. Razor was IC champ. That's it.
That's it, yeah.
And Bulldog won 3 out of 4 championships. He's the first ever European champion. He is the IC champion. I don't even remember. He beat Brett. I don't know who he lost it to.
Shawn Michaels.
Oh, and the European title to Shawn?
Yeah.
Jeez, he's Shawn's job boy.
There you go.
But the Triple Crown originally was the tag, IC, and World. And then the Grand Slam was the European.
If Bulldog won the heavyweight title, he would have been the Grand Slam champion at that point. So, like I said, again, Reflection X, the what if. What if Jake the Snake and Hulk Hogan got their feud on TV? With that being said, TW, give out those socials so we can finally get out of here and enjoy our turkey.
Alrighty, the Pro Wrestling Coalition Network sponsors us at PWC Network at Podbean.com and also Hameen Media Group at Podbean.com, as well as ChannelAttitude.com. Our show's on X. We ain't leaving you, Elon. We are on there at PW Reflection. And I mentioned Travis, so he's at Nuts and Volts, VOELTZ PW. Nuts and Bolts PW on there. Big Ray's on all social media. Pretty soon he'll be in one of them turkey hangover situations, but he's at Big Ray Hernandez on all of it. And every Wednesday on the Next Level podcast doing the NXT stuff live on YouTube. You can find me on X and Instagram at TommyWonder19. Also, you can find me at Snapchat at Number Wonder and Facebook.com/TommyWonder. And then you can find me on the other side of X and TikTok at The Tommy Wonder. And you can find Big Vito and Noel at Big Vito Brand on the TikTok. And you can catch the early release video of this show on Big Ray's YouTube. And I'm still working on getting the Young Rumble set up, but I got to make sure I have everything. And I think I'm just going to make a new one because all the people that follow me on that damn Rumble are like political people. I don't know if I even have followers. If I don't have any followers, it's going to be the Tommy Wonder one, but I'll rename it to
maybe the political people need an escapism, so that's where the PWR.
But that might be True Social that is all political people. Like you just write one thing and all these people follow you.
Rumble is just the alternative YouTube.
To YouTube, right?
Yeah.
But I don't even know if I have any followers on Rumble. That's right. You sent me that damn link so fast on my email. I'm like, damn, I'm not even ready yet. But my question for you,
I did my job.
Right, but
your
is that
job.
Video the finished product? I need a.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so that's what I need. So
well, I don't know how long I don't know how long that video lasts, so it won't go up.
Well, I'm gonna mess with it and try to do the last episode on Rumble, and then I'll.
There's a 7-day shelf life on that, and then it expires.
Well, if it's gone, then I'll do this one first, but I'll figure something out. I'm a busy man, dog. Last week I went to LCA 3 out of 4 days in a row.
I call you on your bluff, so I gave you what it is. So it is what it is. But anyway, neither here nor there. So you can follow me on my Xer at PWSPRF, that's PWSPRF. And this gets uploaded by that slow-ass motherfucker, even though he's eating turkey all day long. 8-Track Brown. This might be on the PWS or YouTube.
That's cannibalism. A turkey eating a turkey.
Oh, shit. But anyway, follow my brothers in arms, 8-Track Brown, the dirtiest of the city, the king of the reactions at the number 8, TRAC Brown. And, of course, follow Billy Ray Valentine at Obi-Wan You Know Me. And again, next week, what if Jake the Snake and Hulk Hogan, the feud got on TV? With that being said, I'm the professor. That's Mr. Wonderful, WWE Zone, the Iron Stomach one, Mr. Wonderful, Dr. Frickin' Stein, and the Detroit Rock City Universal Heavyweight Champion of the World. And the man, Dan Orlovsky, stole his gimmick.
And it rained, bitch. Did you see that?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Now you're doing too much here. Tommy Wonder saying good night, and we'll see you next time here at the PWR podcast at the Hameen Media Group at Podbean.com.
Peace. 1, 2, 3.